Hello, and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a weekly book club podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, sometimes. And how we can include it and improve it for our role-playing campaigns. With me back again in the DM's Book Club, well, Zoom room / recording studio. Definitely, maybe I should get branded like sponsorship now. It's a wonderful Ty. Hello, Ty. How are you, my friend?
Hello, Fiona. I am doing pretty well. Having a good, grand old time reading about this new old game.
New old game, yes. Well, I mean, to be fair to you, I think we planned to talk about this game, last year, but a couple of months, and then just all the stuff happened, and now I'm like, right, let's do it, let's get into it. So yeah, I'm excited. But just in general, gaming stuff going well for you, or like podcast stuff going all right for you?
I have been having a ongoing Curse of Strahd campaign, which I was kind of a little bit experimental, like seeing how I felt about running D&D after having not done it for a while. We'll see how that goes. I'm near wrapping up that. I've also been playing Brindlewood Bay campaign, getting to actually play in that. And I'm also trying to do post-production on an upcoming quest, an SEQ, side character quest, the actual play podcast I run. And then also trying to figure out who I want to be recording with next. So lots of different game stuff.
Yeah. Exciting that you're not only running a game, or appreciate, D&D, yes, thoughts and prayers, I think, but also being able to play in Brindlewood Bay. I know we've talked about Brindlewood Bay before on here. I was talking about it, just how much fun it is and stuff like that. So yeah, and yeah, from my point of view, I've run, it's roughly like mid-January now, and I've already run 2 games. I did a View Screen, which is like a LARP type game, but it's all through video conferencing, and it makes an effort to be like, you are remote, so you can't go into someone else's room or anything like that. And if you were like, we'll meet up here, you can't meet up there, that you just miss them and all that sort of thing. And we've played like an alien sci-fi kind of adventure, which was quite fun. And then I started running Call of Cthulhu, the Amidst the Ancient Trees, for some friends for an offline game, which it's going to be very gentle, I think, because they're very excited to play, but it definitely feels like they're new role players where they go, so who's going to ask the first question? Who's going to make the big step? Anyone? So there's going to be silence for about 30 seconds, and I'm just there going like, that's fine. I'm not going to be like, come on, let's narrative, let's go. So easing myself into the new year with some new games and stuff. So
well, that's awesome. I mean, I heard your year wrap up. You did so many games last year. Easing yourself in is probably a good idea.
That's all the small talk out of the way. What are we talking about today? What is our topic of choice?
We are talking about the Stormlight, or the Cosmere TTRPG. What was the official name of this?
Good question. I think it is the Cosmere RPG.
Okay.
But this first setting is the Stormlight stuff.
Gotcha. So, okay, this is a adaptation of Brandon Sanderson's fantasy stories. He has this is a big fantasy author. Anybody listening has probably heard of him before, who has written many different books that some of them are obviously connected to one another. Other ones, it's kind of connected, kind of in the background. It's hard to notice. And you kind of have to see the little like connections, spider web, linking everything together. I'm curious, what is your exposure to Brandon Sanderson's works? For anybody listening, I think we are going to not worry too much about spoilers, but we will also we're not going to go out of our way to reveal any big, obviously plot heavy thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll come up.
No, mostly because I haven't really read any of them. My partner is a big fan of Brandon Sanderson stuff. Like I can already visualize in the next room these hardbound copies of really nice ones, certainly of the Mistborn series, and I see the Way of the Kings there as well. So yeah, I only really heard about him, I'd say, I feel really awful about this, like in the last 3 or 4 years. And that's purely because the Wheel of Time series came out on Amazon. And then there's that whole thing about like, well, he was writing the end of them. And so I hear that he is, like you said, the breadth of this sort of like worlds that he's put in, basically this Cosmere universe of all these different worlds. And I started listening in preparation to this, the first Mistborn book, which I was enjoying. And then I came to the RPG, the Cosmere RPG, and I was like, oh no, that's not the setting we're looking at. Because
Not at all.
Mistborn is coming later this year, apparently. I was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I had a moment. I was like, oh wow, there's lots of big spoilers here for Mistborn. I guess I was like, there's these two lineages that's not come up at all in this book. So yeah, it turns out I was reading the wrong thing. So I will say, going into this, I'm going to be a complete noob, a newbie to this. So don't judge me too harshly and rip up my nerd card. Because the reason I sort of wanted to talk about Cosmere is because I think it's going to be a really big game this year, and it's one of in a line of games that I think is coming out or has been out, which uses a big IP. We've had stuff like Blade Runner and Alien and Invincible, those sort of like ones. I know I've mentioned those ones from Free League, but the different genre and different worlds. And then I feel like this one is like one of the biggest ones since we've had like the One Ring, for example. Like a fictional world that people can go and read the books and then gain stuff of rather than watching a TV show. So yeah, I was quite curious about it because for me the word Cosmere means nothing, and but like a lot of people got excited about it, including my partner as well. And it's one of those things where I'm like, maybe it's a more of an American audience, perhaps. Like it wasn't as big in the UK, or maybe I was just too young for it or too old for it, depending on how you like. Again, it's one of those things I've been very bad at, like reading fantasy novels from like the early 2000s to now. So that's my sort of point of view coming from it.
Gotcha. So you have a vague understanding of what the stuff is, and you've read the beginning of Mistborn, and that's pretty much the end of your exposure, correct?
Yes, but I would say one thing I would recommend, if you're like me going like, oh no, I've been invited, I'm a cool player that's been invited to play in this Cosmere game, but I don't know anything about it. I will say there's a really cool primer for Roshar, which is about 28 says pages, and it's about $4, maybe $5 over an RPG drive-through. It was one of the most beautiful, like, again, some gorgeous art pieces, but it just gave you a little like, here's what the world is like. So I was like, oh, I'll quickly read that. And that was really helpful to be like, oh, this is what the world we are imagining. If you suddenly got given like this big handbook, which is like 300 plus pages, like, don't worry, there is a smaller primer for players that you can go and check out as well.
So I have read all the Stormlight books. I have read all of the Cosmere books and short stories, I think. I might be missing something. There's so many, guys. There's so many of these books. They're all like interconnected. Some, the connections really, really matter to the plot. Others, they don't really super matter to the plot. This book that we are talking about today is mostly focused on the big magnum opus work, which currently there are 5 out of the 10 planned books that have been released. It's set on Roshar, like you mentioned. One of the things that I really enjoy about Brandon Sanderson's work specifically, and also to a certain extent fantasy in general, I really love the experience of learning what about a world and seeing how everything works and seeing how characters fit within it. And I initially, when I heard that they were making this into a TTRPG, I was like, but like, you're going to get so many spoilers for this book, where for me, so much of the enjoyment, I'm not crazy about spoilers, but for me, for this series, so much of the joy was like figuring out how things connected. And I was like, how can you play a character in this world? How can you do character creation in this world without reading things that just explicitly tell you what the world is like? And I'm curious, like, that perspective that I have of being reticent to start playing a game set in a world that I have not read.
How interesting.
How do you feel about that? Would you have a similar level of reticence?
Obviously, I feel like you've read all these books. Obviously, there's a special place, like you said, working stuff out is really exciting. I find it really interesting because, I was thinking to myself, who is the audience for this particular RPG? I know that's my go-to placeholder question is like, who is this for? Yeah. And it does the whole thing of like, here's a bit about Cosmere, here's a bit about the timeline it's set in, and here's the stuff for if you're new to RPGs. And I do think it is meant for people who have read most of Cosmere and then to play in it. So I assume the GM and quite a lot of the players are creating characters in it, and that's great. But it does feel interesting because in the handbook, there's certain places where it goes, by the way, we're about to talk about some major spoilers, and you're like, oh, okay. And I will say, I read them and I was like, I have no idea what any of this means.
You don't know why this matters. Like, oh, this character died in this battle. Why is that a big deal? Who cares?
I'm sure it will be when again, it's one of those things because my memory's not been very good recently. When I eventually get there, but that's what you were talking about. But actually, the other game that I know does this kind of is Die the RPG, because that's based on the graphic novel, and in that in the graphic novel, it's revealed like. When a character dies, something happens to them, and like the world and like fundamental truths sort of come out at the end of the graphic novel. It has a whole page on it, and it says like GM's eyes only, but it's like, hey, we are absolutely going to spoil the end of the graphic novel because that's kind of important for the GM running the game. So I do think like I do think it is primarily aimed at people who've already immersed themselves in the Cosmere sort of universe and the stuff, that rather than a TTRPG player going like, I'd like to try it. But again, maybe the GM is like, oh, I want to tell these stories to people who've not read the books. They're not read the books. So I'm going to force them to play a game and force them, and get them through that perhaps.
I could totally see that because like these books specifically, not all of Brandon Sanderson's books are huge honkin' tomes. Like some of his books are standalone that are like that move very fast and that are fairly short. But these books, the Stormlight books, are intentionally big.
Yeah.
They are long. They are intense. And some people are just going to be like, I'm never going to want to read something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you that you love this thing. And I care about you, GM. And you're my friend. And I want to like take part in this thing that you really like. Mm-hmm. But I have no interest in reading this. Yeah. We both like to play games together. Right. So maybe we do that instead. And then I also wonder, like the little tome that 28 or 30 page thing that you mentioned, the setting guide. Mm-hmm. I wonder if for some people, I've heard them talk about reading the first book and feeling just totally lost when they throw out certain names of countries or cultures or whatever. And for me, when I was reading that, I was just like, oh yeah, I'll understand this later. That's fine. But for some people, not getting like that background information could really confuse and throw them off and make them not like the experience. Mm. So for them, I wonder if a primer guide before they then dive into the novels could, for a certain type of person, like improve their enjoyment, not spoil it, but like actually make them have a better time.
I completely agree, because this particular primer that I looked at, the Welcome to Roshar, which is, I just checked, it is 28 pages. And even then, quite a lot of the pages are this really gorgeous artwork. But it's like, obviously, it's like, here's some, like, I think they're called rock shells, which is like, here's some, like, really, like, rocky plants. And I was like, that's really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I didn't think of that. But it's nice because then, like you said, I'm not missing out. It's like, here's the information you need to know as someone who's just living, has come to the big city or whatever. This is what they would already know. I mean, like D&D has primers for like I always go about the Waterdeep primer that is written by Volo, and he's like, adventurer. Well, here's 5 places you need to know, and he goes, blah, 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 blah. He goes, and I'm sure there are others, but you'll find them out in your own time. You're like, okay, Volo. But yeah, I think just that easing in of stuff is good, because otherwise, like you said, it becomes name dropping loads of people or lists of like dates and wars, and you're just there going like, I'm sure this is important, but it's not a test and it's not an exam. And I did see, again, in one of the video essays I was looking at of people like reviewing it, and one of them, I would say, I won't name them, but they were like, oh man, there's so much reading to do with the RPG books, and they were like, here's 300 plus pages for this book, and then even the starter set is this, and it's like totals up to like 700 excess pages. And then the comments were like, have you ever read a Brandon Sanderson book? This is nothing. I was like,
that's funny.
I thought that was really funny that they were complaining about like, oh, you need to know all this information for running a role-playing game. And I was like, totally fair. But considering where it's come from, I was like, yeah, it's probably been distilled and streamlined down enough to be like, here's what you need to know for running a game with those spoilers in as well.
On that note, did you take a look at the intro First Steps adventure, the character creation thing?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Because on the opposite end, if you don't know all of this stuff, they have a first steps, almost like a choose your own adventure game that you can go through with your, as the GM can go through with a player. And like the magic system, the class system in the Stormlight books is something that the characters don't necessarily understand or know.
Sure.
And that is kind of this is oversimplifying, but kind of personality based, right? And so they have this adventure where you can make decisions in character as you go, and as you make these decisions, it adds up to being like, oh well, this is probably the stats that you would have. This is the items you would have on you. This is the path, the heroic path, which is essentially like a class that you should probably take. And if you eventually get magic, this is the type of magic that you will probably get. And one of the nice things about that is it's framed in such a way that like players won't, a player who doesn't know all of the like, 20 different types of magic out there, they aren't going to have to like read through all of the options, learn something, stuff that their character would not know and that would take them forever to look through. No. You just find out the character you want to play, what that character would get access to. That's what you need to read. You don't need to read those 700 pages.
Yeah.
It really cuts it down.
So you can have the first steps as if you're playing it for a group, but there's also a solo edition as well. But it's the same thing of like, what would you do? And then
I didn't notice the solo edition.
Yeah. So, cool. But it's like, again, it's like, here's 4 options that they could do. And then you go, okay, and then jump to that session. And I just was like, yeah, it is choose your own adventure, choose your own class. But it's done in such a way that it doesn't, like, you're not overwhelmed with like decision paralysis. And you just like, because that's the thing, again, just because we mentioned at the top, the Call of Cthulhu, I discovered is that people get really hung up on like, what, there's so many skills. And like, yeah, don't need to, you just happen to have them. But a lot of the times you're never going to use mechanical repair. And even if you are, it's probably not going to go well in a chase, So it's interesting how, as you said, players maybe like, we need to know all this stuff up front so I can be fully informed to make a fully informed decision. And I'm like, maybe, but also the GM is not going to be like, sucker, yeah, you didn't know, so you're now trapped in this particular like archetype or whatever. What I really liked about the first steps, again, as you said, it was very gentle, it was very straightforward. You could even like read it through at the same time as you're playing. But also, it was the first time I noticed, and I realized it's in for the handbook and the sort of main campaign book as well. It's a pronunciation guide. Ty.
Oh, there is
so many pronunciations, and not only that, every character that you get an NPC, it'll say their name, and then it will sound it out, and there'll also be pronouns as well.
Whoa, I didn't notice that.
I think it's both that and also the. I'm going to get it wrong now, but the campaign is like giants or something like that. I can't remember what exactly.
Stonewalkers, I think.
Stonewalkers, sorry, in my head, giants. So Stonewalkers, and I'm just there going like, okay, clearly, like, well, we want to make sure that when you're playing this game, you're not gonna mispronounce or, mangle all of these, very cool sounding places because it's fantasy. Let's actually give them the tools for it. Wizards of the Coast doesn't always give pronunciation.
No.
That's the thing I always talk about. But yeah, pronunciation guys, I was instantly, I'm in on the ground floor on this one.
That is really surprising to me. I mean, well, I guess it shouldn't be because I feel like there's many really great decisions that this game makes. I've heard from a friend who's been playing in a game of this that it is sometimes the like way that stats and things are organized in the book are kind of hard to find, but the actual content when you do find it is supposed to be pretty good. The reason that it surprised me that they have actual pronunciation guides is that Brandon Sanderson has like made a point that there's audiobooks out there for all of these books, right? And the narrator doesn't always pronounce things the quote unquote canon way. Like in Mistborn, for example, the main character is named Vin, and there's another character named Kelsier, right? But the names Brandon Sanderson has said are all of the language in Mistborn is inspired by French. So really, those characters should be pronounced with like a French accent. And the narrator didn't know that. And so, of course, everybody that's listened to the audiobooks are pronouncing it the narrator's way. So they're saying Kelsier, not Kelsier, and Vin, not Vin, that sort of stuff. But there's also, I was about to go deep into a,
there you go.
a
I can
nerd
see
hole.
your eyes going.
I'm gonna pull back out of my Cosmere nerd hole before I fall into a pit that we will be stuck in for the next 20 minutes.
Set up like a separate like book club where we're just talking about Cosmere, so I can catch up and I'll be like, oh, I get it now. I think that'll be me at the end of every episode. So
if you continue listening to Mistborn, I would love to hear your thoughts.
I definitely will. I enjoy it. Because like I said, I feel like it's passed me by all these cool fantasy books. And like I think I said to you, like I'm only like a couple of chapters into the Mistborn, and I'm already going like, oh yes, this cool Vin who's like, I'm an orphan, but also, oh, I've got powers, I guess. I'm just like going like, okay. And I know that's just me. That's just me going like, oh, of course, the female protagonist is this, but obviously that's such boiled down to nothing, and I don't know anything on that front.
I will say that I the fans of Cosmere, don't come at us. I really enjoy it, and I'm sure Fiona will once she's like read more. But that said, one of the big things that I compliment Sanderson on is that you can really see growth in his writing and his representation from over the years. And Mistborn was the first thing that he had published. And boy, he did not know how to write women back then. And he's gotten loads better over the years through concerted effort, through like listening to critique, through hiring consultants, like paying people, through having beta readers, through like genuinely concerted, like making a strong effort to improve. And not just in that realm, in many realms. And
that's the thing. I think that's one reason why I've not like gone into reading lots of fantasy books, because often it is like, where are the women? I scream in their vast dwarven hallways. And even then when the women turn up, I'm like, they're either sexy and evil, or they're like, no, help. And I'm just like, God, we can't have just a norm. Where's Eowyn? The one woman in Lord of the Rings that goes, I will kill the Witch King or whatever. And I'm just like, So I'm very aware that I think I do have my bias of going like, oh God, every time I go, I gird my loins. But like I said, like when I was reading it, I was like, okay, I definitely see the interest already of it. So and it's that sort of thing where I'm just saying, once I get to the end of the book, it's the same that happened with the Dritz de Werden books as well. Like I read or listened to the first one of the Dark Elf trilogy, and I was like, I get this now. It took me a while, but I was like, I understand why he's such a big deal. And I kind of, he's just a big cat dad, and I'm all here for cat dads. I'm happy to hear that, and I'm interested to know more about the politics of the Drow. And so it is that sort of thing where I just need to open myself up, my little shields against current modern fantasy books, and I go, okay, let's try it. Because I did get burned a little bit by reading some George R.R. Martin's like Game of Thrones, and I was like, nah, I don't need to read anymore. I was like, I'm done with this. So let's go into then talking about the actual RPG. I can come from it from a mechanics point of view.
Yeah, please.
Overall, if you're used to playing D&D, it is the same sort of thing. You roll a d20, add a modifier, and if you meet the difficulty or the target's defense or whatever, then you succeed. But they also have this interesting mechanic called raising the stakes, or raising your stakes, where you'd add a plot die, which is another d6. On the faces, you have either a complication, blank, or successes. And the idea is that regardless of what your final result is, if it's a raise the stake, if it's like almost like a pivotal sort of plot point, like a canon event, shall we say, regardless of how successful it is or not, you will get you will just be like, we should determine if you get a complication out of this or a success out of this. And normally what happens is that, you roll your d20, you roll your plot die, and then if you get, for example, you get a complication, it will say complication skill, then a 2, or complication skill or a 4 on the 2 first faces. You actually add those numbers to the roll. And that is, again, it's a way to boost your roll to be like, oh, you do succeed, but with a cost or with a complication. Or, you boosted it, but you didn't make it, so you failed with a complication. Alternatively, on the 5 and 6, it's just successes. So, like, you roll, you failed, but you do get a good benefit out of it. Or you succeeded with a good benefit out of it, but it doesn't add anything to it. I find it really interesting because it's not basically it's supposed to account for about a third of your rolls is to add this like plot die to make it like add a little flavor to it. I'm not sure what to make of it. I'll be honest. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that particular element at all.
My initial thought when I saw it was like, well, this is a lot of steps just to have mixed successes. This is a lot.
That's your fortunate dark a bit coming out there. Like, no.
Yeah. Like it felt a little bit, like, oh, if you're going to do this, then why are you doing the complication of D&D? Why don't you just go to something that just natively has these mixed results?
Yeah.
But that's unfair because a lot of people like the crunch of the D&D. And hey, I love a D20 as much as the next guy. They're very nice dice. They're very fun to roll. Again, I mentioned earlier that I talked to a friend who has been playing this. My pal Josh, who people who've listened to SEQ know he was on there as fair. He has been playing this game and has said that, like, on paper, when he read these things, he's mostly a D&D guy, somebody that has mostly just been exposed to that.
Okay.
And he told me that the experience of playing this game with those sorts of, with like the plot die, with the different way that this handles initiative and like turn order, which perhaps we'll get to in a little bit, and various other like tweaks that this game has made to the D&D formula, tweaks that I think you and I would view as like, these aren't like that crazy.
This is not groundbreaking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Josh has looked at these from the perspective of somebody that's mostly played D&D, and he's been like, okay, his actual quote was, "This is the first time I found myself questioning the validity of D&D's strangle on the TTRPG community."
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so, I mean, that's great. That's really cool. It sounds like in person at the table, these mechanics feel really good.
Okay.
I don't know how it would feel to me, but it definitely seems like it feels good to the folks that are playing it.
Oh, interesting. Because, like, I was a bit like, kind of reminded me a little bit of like Daggerheart, whereby you roll 2d12 and, you succeed with hope or you fail with dread. And again, those mixed results. And I was like, are they just trying to find a way to be like, oh, flavors? Like, it reminded me, I don't know if you've ever played the like Fantasy Flight games, or like, like the Star Wars ones where you have like
Force and Destiny.
Yeah, exactly. Where you roll those dice, and it's like use 3 successes and a complication or a threat or whatever it is.
Boy. We did that for a full campaign.
Whoa.
Had a delightful time. By the end of it, like none of us understood how the rolls worked. After playing this game for like 2 years, none of us actually felt like confident in what it meant when you roll the dice. We always just had to use like this online dice calculator and then just be like, wait, what does this mean?
Yeah, no, I've played it as well. And yeah, as you said, I had a really good time. And it's like, it's not numbers, it's all interpretation. You're like, cool. Did I shoot the guy? Because I've got a lot of threats. It feels like I shot the guy, but also it feels, I don't, yay, nay. Yeah, so there's, triumphs. I always remember there was like the super successes. And that's what I feel here as well, is like, there's like the plot die is like, you get a little extra bonus. But then even if you rolled like a complication, you still get a little boost to your roll. And I'm like, surely you just want to, why not do the same thing with the successes? Why not add like a +2 or a +4 or even like, I don't know, a -2 and a -4 to be like, oh, you did succeed. But it's skin of your teeth, and here's a benefit for it. It just feels wild to be like, why would you boost up the complications? That's what I thought initially on the paper.
I think part of the goal is to try to encourage everyone to want to roll the plot die, and I think that like what it's trying to do is it's not just the GM that can like instigate the plot die.
That's true. You're right. Yeah.
The player can ask like, hey, can we do the plot die? I feel like what is happening right now. I feel like I know that it doesn't look like a big deal. Me trying to convince this, trying to pull this random soldier I don't know away from the battlefield and away from being hurt. I know that doesn't feel like a big deal to you guys at the table. This is just some random person, but I feel that to my character right now, that would have a huge narrative impact. I want to risk having that complication, that extra complication.
Okay.
Because this is an emotionally important moment to me. One of the things that I heard from folks playing this was that versus D&D, this game seems to put more agency into the hands of the players and not ask as much from the GM to set those narrative stakes, you know?
Yeah, I'd forgotten that, yes, you could ask for it and try and make a plea for it and say, I'm willing to take this presumably minor consequence if, you know, because you get a boost on it, possibly, you know, like a +4 to your roll, including the modifier. Like the only time that doesn't happen is that if you roll a natural 20 or a critical failure on a 1, you would roll the dice then, and then so you might have critically failed, but you did get some sort of success. But that number doesn't add or take away. I believe. Oh no, I think it does add. Sorry, for the natural 20s, but on a natural 1, it doesn't add to it. So you always have a natural 1 if you roll a natural 1.
Oh, I think that just for the listeners' benefit, we should read what the game suggests you do when somebody rolls an opportunity or rolls a complication for the plot die. Opportunities. So if somebody, if let's say I'm in the middle of like rolling a skill test or I'm rolling an attack, and either I or the GM or a move that I have call for the plot die. Call for that to be added. An added layer of narrative importance has been given to this attack or action or whatever. So we roll the plot die and I roll an opportunity.
Yes, sorry, they're not successes, they're opportunities, yes.
Yes. Me and the GM decide whether it's going to allow me to aid an ally, to collect myself, so recover some focus, critically hit on an attack. So you can critically hit even if you didn't actually roll a 20 or whatever.
Nice.
Or influence the narrative. My bread and butter. Just like some positive thing that affects the narrative of the campaign, which is really good. And then the complications, that if I had rolled a complication instead, I would get a bonus to my roll.
Yes.
And do you have if you have the list pulled up, I'll let you read the rest.
So the GM should spend this complication to choose one of the following effects, which is hinder an ally. So the next test taken by a PC gains a disadvantage. Become distracted, you lose 1 focus. Or influence the narrative, your actions result in a narrative drawback of the GM's choice. Again, straightforward, I think. And it's enough options for like you, the player, to be like, oh, well, I want to help so-and-so on the next check. As a GM, if I was running this, I'd be like, hey, you got the opportunity. Here's the options, and just make sure that they use it.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because I was looking for it, do you bank these? No, you just spend them right then and there. I'm guessing you don't hold them as a bank on your character sheet or with a group, right?
My understanding, I could be wrong.
Yeah,
my understanding is
we could be wrong.
that you spend it right away. However, earlier today in preparation for this, I was listening to an actual play of this game, and during that actual play, this came up, and the GM was like, there's not really a spot for the thing that you want to happen narratively for your opportunity. So we will hold on to this.
Okay.
I will either present it to you, or if you see an opening,
that's cool.
Call upon it. So I don't know if the game explicitly suggests that strategy, but I think it's a very obvious thing for a GM to decide to do.
Definitely, because that's the thing. Again, it says here like some abilities will provide additional ways to spend those opportunities if they get triggered, and I guess the same thing as well for complications. Because that's the thing in my head is that maybe you don't want to help an ally or aid an ally of your choice. The next test they do, you might want to hold on to it. Loads of games do that where you like, you can spend it now or hold on to it and then like, no, re-roll or whatever. So but you're right. I think it seems to me the gut instinct is that you use it now, and then it's up to the GM to go, there's nothing really here for you. Let's hold on. You remember it, and because I'll keep a track of it. But you can only have one at one time, like inspiration. You're not going to be like hoarding them all and be like, okay, you get an opportunity, you get an opportunity, you get an opportunity. Because presumably the GM will be spending the complications right then and there, rather than banking them up themselves.
If I was running this, I think I would probably end up erring on the side of, letting people bank things.
Yeah.
However, I think that it would probably work most smoothly if you really strive to use it as quickly as possible.
Agreed.
And not run into that situation where you're like, I have 18 stored opportunities.
Where'd you get all those from? You're like, I just
never, it just all never comes up.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for the perfect chance.
Just moving on slightly to the character sheet stuff.
Yeah.
What I thought was interesting, again, like we've already talked about the first steps and building a character through that, but if you were going to build it sort of from the book itself, and again, I appreciate this as me newbie coming in, but like, there's only 2 ancestries, presumably because obviously that's the whole point of the Stormlight. And I was like, that's really cool. And being able to choose the ancestries first, and then obviously it goes into like the starting path, which I thought was a really cool terminology, where you start on it. And you've got 6 there, I believe. You've got agent, envoy, hunter, leader, scholar, warrior, each of which in them has 3 specialist sort of areas as well. But there's like this whole talk about like, hey, just because you're starting on this path doesn't mean you're gonna, you have to stick to it. Like you could take things from other places later on.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really cool as well, because then you're growing with your character, you're learning stuff rather than being locked into like, you must need these prerequisites of something before you can go into something else. I thought that was really interesting, that, and the branching sort of like talents that you can get, the expertise. I thought, again, that's really cool. That, again, visually, it's like a video game. That's what I was sort of seeing. You can like, okay, next step, you do this, and then be able to really flesh out what your character was from that. So it did talk about it right at the beginning. Hey, think of a good concept first. Don't worry about all these other things. And I'm always like, I like a good concept, but I also like, for me, I'm like, I need help. All my concepts have gone out the window, Ty. I've made so many characters. A 2D version of myself, like in a fantasy world. Basically, every character I have has my face on it. Like a small child, my face. A cool monster in a nature grove, my face. So that's why I'm saying I would have liked to have some. I mean, obviously, there's the pre-generated characters, and I will say there's some good videos from Brother Wise Games that go through like how to create a character. But I want to go concept first. I'm like, you need to give me a random table full of concepts.
Something.
I'm sure I can come up with something, but otherwise it's just me. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be an envoy. Sure.
It is really interesting. The little the different skill trees, I guess is what you would call you call it, for all these different paths are really cool. I don't know if you noticed this, but some of the skill trees have, they'll have like a really basic prerequisite, like you must be level 1 or you must be level 8 or you must be whatever. But then they'll also have a thing like you must be level 3 and have done X narrative thing, like this like in fiction justification for why you would have this magical ability.
That's very cool. Yeah because that's the sort of thing where you would talk to your GM going, hey, I'm really thinking about down this class, but I need to do these narrative things, and the GM can go, I see you, I can put these like story hooks in your way. It's a bit like in Heart, the City Beneath, where Rowan Rook and Descartes, they have for their character sheets, you have like story beats or things that's how you get XP at the end, and the Zenith beats, they're called, is how your character dies essentially in this horrible dungeon. But they're very cool and they're very evocative, and they're like a one-time power, and if you use it, that's it. And you have people go like, I can't wait to use the Zenith beat. And then the other beats are like, you found a new location, or you got a small army together. And then the GM can go, okay, you've marked these ones, okay, I can now use that to prepare my little scenario for you. Or you want to work towards that one, or let me help you. So that's the same thing here. It's like this narrative thing that happens in the fiction. You have to talk to your GM, like, we're going to go for this, I think, rather than like, what can I do?
Is like those when you're doing that sort of choose your adventure thing that we mentioned earlier, it suggests that path to the GM, and they could hold on to that kind of secretly and just kind of start to have this emergent magic approach you, right? Or like you said, you could be like, this is what I want my character to work towards. So let's like very knowingly like move in that direction.
In terms of like assigning stats, again, I won't go too deeply into it, but you have, the main sort of characteristics. You got strength, speed, intellect, willpower, awareness, and presence. And all you do is you just spread 12 points out between these these attributes. The lowest you can go is a 0. The highest you can go is a 3 at the start. From those stats, you can combine them to have like your strength defense, your spiritual defense. You just add 10 to that. I just think that's really...
You're telling me that I'm not supposed to have a big number for strength and a little number for strength?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, what about for intelligence and charisma?
Nope.
Am I not supposed to have big numbers for those and little
Nope.
numbers for those?
Nope. It's great. Yeah. I love it. Like, yeah, the physical, cognitive, and spiritual defenses, they just add it together and then you plus 10.
Yeah.
It's so straightforward. God, I can't believe it.
This game does a very good job of, you look at it and you're like, this is so close to D&D. Why would you not just do D&D? And yet it does so many things to like fix these little annoying bits in D&D. So yeah, and obviously, as we were mentioning earlier, like it does these things to make it fit the setting better.
And then like with the skill stuff, you just get, I think it's like one skill rank from your starting path, I believe. And then I think you get another, I want to say 3 anywhere. And that's just you add it up to a 2, but that's it. And then you can be like, cool, everything else is filled in because they're under the physical, cognitive, and spirit. And that's your modifiers all done. Oh, so straightforward and really easy. And I was just there going like, this is what? No, there must be there must be something else. And like you get like key talents and from your starting path and ancestry. And if you choose human over the other one's singer, right? Is that
singer? Yeah.
Because singers get a much cooler path. It seems like it's like, you want to be a human? That's fine. We're just gonna be over here and have our cool powers. You get another talent, I guess. And then you just choose a starting kit, like just any toolkit you want. Put that in, and then it goes on to like your purpose, obstacle, and goals, and everything else is. It's just like, wow, this feels really straightforward. Literally in 10 minutes, you could have a character up ready to go. Obviously, if you're looking into the different starting paths, maybe if you're like, I'll just be an envoy, I'll just take that at level 1, and we'll go into the specialist stuff later. Yeah, really cool, really interesting.
You mentioned like that there's the two paths. There's the singer and the human. I think that a pitfall that like D&D and some other systems have run into in the past is like, oh, we're just having humans and how are we going to represent humans from different cultures?
Yes.
Well, we're going to do like stat bonuses and, say like, oh, people from this culture are dumb and strong. And people from this one are charismatic and not dexterous and various things like that. And in this, they just have like, okay, there's humans.
Yeah.
And if you are from this culture, then here is some world stuff that you probably believe, and that some world stuff you probably would know, and some expertises you would be more likely to have.
Yeah.
But there's not that sort of like, you are from this culture and therefore your character has to be
here are all
thing.
these stereotypes positive and negative stereotypes that go along with it. Yeah, it's really nice to have that. And just being able to be like, whatever character you make can be really yours. And yeah, like even the expertise, again, it's straightforward. Here's ones we suggest. If you got any others, totally fine. No problem with it.
One thing that I will say is that this game, at the back of the section, has a fairly in-depth thing about safety tools and about how to handle playing marginalization and prejudice at the table.
Right.
And saying like, here's approaches you can use, here's tools you can use. Right. And also you don't have to do that, but you can talk to the people at your table, see what is comfortable, and make sure to check in.
Mm-hmm.
The story of the Stormlight Archives and this setting that this game is taking place in is a story that is largely about prejudice and discrimination in many forms. And part of that has to do with the singers. With this group of people who are not human and who live in this place. And without getting too into the weeds of it, if you were to see a singer in the normal human city, they would be like lowest of the low, treated basically like animals. The singers that you'd be playing in this game, you could choose to be one of those people, or you could choose to be from one of the cities that have been recently connected with the human culture in this world.
I see.
I'm trying to dance around.
I know. I can see you dancing around it. Yeah. Yeah, in the sense of it's a safe space for them to be themselves, and they won't necessarily be attacked for who they are, or they won't be
Uh-huh.
the sort of abuse about it. So yeah, it's not sort of, if you're playing these characters, we're not glorifying what's happened to them in the books or anything like all the violence incited against them. It's
Mhm.
more about, hey, we can play these characters, but we've got to do it sensitively. And I just had a quick look. Yeah, that safety guide at the back is very detailed, which is really, I'm a big tick on that front. Yeah. I guess my next question then is, would it make sense for Oops All Singers or Oops All Humans? Do you think
Ooh.
there's a chance to have sort of a mixture of the two? I guess is my thing. Or would there be certain stories that you think, maybe not? Just out of interest, because like we're saying, that there's only
Yeah.
two ancestries to choose from. Whereas I think one of the things I think with D&D is that sometimes it's like there's so many ancestries to choose from. It's a bit overwhelming, and it's like, you've got
Yeah.
a Kokra, you auntie, you got a Gif Sarai, and it's like, how do all these people come together? I mean, I'm sure they do, and that's really cool. But it's like, here is like, it makes sense. But I was like, just again from just thinking about the story element, is it likely
Mhm.
that we'd have these two ancestries being in the same party? And also on top of that, would it be the normal size party? Do you think of like 4 people, or do you think it'd be less, more?
I could very easily think of justifications, like narrative justifications in this world, to have groups that are either all singer or some human or just human.
Mm-hmm.
It because we see those sorts of relationships play out in the books over the course of the different books. The people are meeting and engaging with one another. So I think that whatever sort of group someone wanted to, like a table wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would not be difficult to come up with
Great.
narrative justification for it
Cool.
in this fiction without needing to like bend canon,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could if you just wanted it to be like, all right, we're not going to touch on any of that stuff
Yeah.
because we just don't think that we just don't think we will have a good time at this
Yeah.
table if we address those topics.
Yeah. Your mileage may vary on those things. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it would be hard to come up with in fiction narrative justification for these things.
Nice, nice. And in terms of like, do you think it would be a big parties or smaller parties would benefit? I mean, obviously, I know you and I have played like a one-on-one, and obviously there is like a solo version of this as well. But like,
I think that this would probably be roughly the same standard size of a D&D group.
okay,
But I think that this might be able to support slightly more than a standard D&D group.
oh, interesting.
The reason I say that is because the way that combat initiative works, one of the big reasons, there's other reasons, but one of the reasons you don't want a big party in D&D is because of the way combat works in D&D, where if you've got like 7 players, then it'll be 20 minutes before, in between your turns,
Yep.
right? In this game, when you are rolling, you are given 2 options. Initiative works in 2 ways. Each round of combat, you can either take a fast turn or a slow turn,
Mm-hmm.
and player characters always go before non-player characters.
Right. Simple.
If you and an enemy are both taking fast turns, then it's you, then the enemy, and then other players that are taking slow turns, and then other enemies that are taking slow turns.
Yeah.
And the strategy, the extra little bit of crunch that I think some people would really enjoy is that if you take a slow turn, you get 3 actions. If you take a fast turn, you get 2 actions.
Really good.
But how you jumble those all together is up to the people at the table. You are negotiating like, I'm going to do an action, and then Fiona, you want to do 2 actions, and then I'm going to do my second action, and then the other player at our table holds to do a slow turn, and they do their 3 actions when it comes around to them. Because of that, and also the fact that you have reactions that you can pull from. I, again, pulling on the experience of my friend Josh, who has been playing this, he says that it leads to people being much more consistently engaged and not feeling like they're just waiting for their turn to show up.
Yeah.
I think he specifically said that like this combat like ruined him for D&D combat.
Oh, I
which
mean, that's a good thing. I was going to say that's a good thing. Yeah, no, I thought, again, simple initiative. You always know where you're going to go. You're always going to go before the NPCs. Brilliant. And yeah, I like the idea like you could be the first to strike, but you have one less action point essentially. Because some of your actions will take up 1 point. Some of them will take the whole 3 points as well. So if you want to do your special ability, perhaps you might have to hang back and then do the big thing. Really, really cool.
Every turn you can decide, no, this time I'm going to do fast. Oh, actually, this time I'm going to do slow. And, if the first time we played, you did 2 actions for the fast and then I did 2 actions for the fast. We did it in that order. The next time we go, it could be you, then me, then you, then me. We can mix that up.
Like you said, the engagement in there, so you can see what the battlefield's like. Oh, whoa, okay, I'm going to go slow and see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it makes it so much more streamlined for maintaining that combat. Like you said, like the engagement's there for the players, but also for you, the GM, you're not just going through the motions and like, all right, roll. It's like, okay, I've got these 3 points. What do I do? It's like we have our friends, the Backwater Bastards, their system, they use Orbital Refuge for their podcast. Is kind of the same thing. Like they still roll the D20s for initiative, but then they have 3 energy slots or points. It's like, okay, the more stuff you can do, great. They don't have reactions though, so obviously you spend all 3, then you don't have a reaction to defend yourself or anything like that. So you got 1 to aim, 2 to shoot. If you want to move, that's you might need to move, but maybe you need that reaction to stop something else coming in. So yeah, I like how it is in this Cosmere one of just like, again, dead straightforward. Like people who maybe aren't fully up on their crunchiness, but like they can work this out. It's like almost like step up into that crunchiness, which I like. I overall, like, again, the brief bits that I've looked at these things, I've found it's a really well laid out book, as I've already sort of shouted from the rooftops. It's like, it's got pronunciation guides, so it's a big tick for me. The artwork is gorgeous in it. I feel like I like it feels fairly easy to read, but all the artwork is very evocative, and I assume they've created it for the book. It's not like redone for any of the other.
Understanding.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is like, I think the system is simple enough for me to go, I can see myself playing it, maybe even running it. But then, the primer for me, the Welcome to Rosha, I was like, okay, maybe I can see a world with this. But if anything, this RPG has intrigued me to be like, maybe I should look into this Brandon Sanderson like guy. maybe he's got a book or two that'll be interesting. Like because I hadn't really thought about the Stormlight archives at all. So I was like, Mistborn, that's one my partner really enjoys, so I will start listening to that. But now I'm like, because I also felt like the human and the singer, like the singers seemed very alien. So at first I was like, wait, is this like sci-fi instead? And then obviously it's not, it's high fantasy.
Do you want me to, can I spoil part of the premise of Mistborn for you?
Do it. Yeah.
But this speaks to the overall tone of the Cosmere. So Mistborn was originally conceived of as a trilogy of trilogies, where it would be a trilogy of high fantasy, a trilogy of modern fantasy, and a trilogy of sci-fi fantasy.
Ooh, interesting.
And they'd be taking place in different eras. That has kind of evolved a little bit over time.
Sure.
But that was the original conceit of it. So you're picking up on like some sci-fi stuff. There are some sci-fi things in the Cosmere. Also, I want to note for people, because you mentioned earlier that they're going to be releasing rules for Mistborn later on. I think that it's cool that these the paths that we've been looking at, like the heroic paths of like agent, envoy, all of those things, those are all like not tied to a magic system. Yes. So and then you just layer, once you get magic, you just layer those abilities on. If you want them, you can either choose a magic ability or you can choose like to continue developing these non-magic paths. But what I assume how that's going to play out is that when Mistborn comes out, they'll release some additional heroic paths that like are more specific for the Mistborn setting and their own magic paths that have their own prerequisites and stuff.
So you could literally you can play in the Stormlight archives and then be like, cool, I still want the same character. Because again, as far as I'm aware, you can't go between these different worlds. But like, okay, got that. It's really easy to look at your face. Streamline the thing to go into the episode. That's really cool. That you have the space system and then it's just literally changing the magic system. It seems like that's really cool. I hadn't thought of that.
I'm really excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, because again, from the brief bit, I know, this Cosmere is this big universe with lots of different worlds. And I know there's talk about the other worlds maybe getting like a source book as well. So that's really cool that you like, all you need is this base bit, and then you can layer, like you said, layering it on almost like as if you've got a perspex sheet with that. And he goes, and the magic is bit. And it's like, oh.
There's one of the, just thinking of one of the Cosmere books that's like a standalone novel called Tress in the Emerald Sea, which I think is a very good, if somebody is like, I want to get a sense of what Cosmere is, but like I don't want to dive into one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Tress in the Emerald Sea, very fun, standalone, kind of has Princess Bride vibes.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah, it's delightful. I could really easily see them doing like, oh, here's a 20-page module that has like a couple of magic paths from Tress and a couple of heroic paths for Tress, and then like a little bit of like a setting primer.
Yeah.
And boom, now you can play a Cosmere game, including a character from that setting. And I could imagine them doing that with like a lot of the different settings in this, that just kind of like show up for a short story or something.
That'd be cool, because then you could have like different, like it's a 2-shot, but in this world, and you can go in and do your own stuff on that. That's really cool, because I know they've released. I will say, like, if you're interested, but again, don't necessarily want to fork out a lot of money for like looking at these rules, there's some free downloads on the Cosmere RPG.com website, the Broken Wise website, where you can get, I think, the starter rules, you can get like a player's reference, the GM's reference, blank character sheets and all that good stuff. But there's also, along with obviously the first steps, there is this like a holiday scenario as well you can get as well, which I thought was quite cute. And that's what I always like. It's like, clearly they thought about this game, that how can we get more people to play our game? Okay, we'll keep the free stuff like that, but also free scenarios. I'm always like, okay, what's this? And it's holiday themed. Okay, so there's going to be some sort of festival. Something happened at the festival. We'll get a little bit of the world. We'll get a little bit of taste into it. It's like on the opposite side of the genre spectrum, there's Cult Divinity Lost, which is obviously a big horror game. They used to do monthly scenarios, free scenarios that you'd get, and it'd be like, here's a scenario, here's some pre-generated character sheets, go have fun. And some of those scenarios, obviously, they make it into like a book at the end. But I was like, damn, these are really good scenarios. And
that's really fun. Like a little monthly release, and then it comes into a total guide at the end of the year. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like, otherwise, it feels like they've set themselves up to be like, okay, how can we treat this IP with respect and like get more people in, rather than, some people might cruelly be like, oh god, not another Alien RPG or not another Wandering stuff. Even though I do think those are very good products, that pros and cons for both of them. Here I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but already I can see, wow, there's very well supported.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like one and done, and they're like, right, have fun with it. Like even like the Blade Runner stuff, there's only been a couple of bits and pieces from Free League for it, which is a shame, but also probably it's very expensive to do this IP stuff. Whereas here, it feels like from the ground up, they want more people to get into the Brandon Sanderson universe, get their own story.
And the author, like some of the ideas for these stories came from TTRPGs that he ran and played in early on. So like, if it makes perfect sense that he would
full
really
circle
want to
there.
invest. Yeah, full circle. I recognize that we are approaching late in time, but I do have a question for you.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned reading, we've gone over and over that you've mentioned like reading this 28-page primer. And we've both talked about feeling that like the game system here feels engaging and like, oh yeah, maybe this could be a fun thing to either run or play. My question for you is, looking at just the primer and forget about the game system for a moment.
Yep.
Do you feel like you would want to either play or run a game in this setting? Not necessarily in this system, just in this setting. Does that look exciting to you?
I think purely, and I know this is going to sound really weird, purely on the art pieces, yes.
Oh, interesting.
It had like stuff like the spheres, for example, like how the money is. It's these gemstones in little spheres, and there's like a picture of someone's hand with the gemstones in it.
Yeah,
that's really evocative and visual. I'm like, I never thought about currency being like cool. Like,
Yeah.
so I thought that was quite cool because often you see like a gold coin or a bronze piece, and they're different shapes, but they're not really talked about. The actual like picture of the shard bearers as well that it has here, like a huge, big ass sword and like the almost like Elden Ring style plate armor. Looks really cool as well. The thing that got me when I was looking at it was they break it down into sections like ecology, for example. So this is, I'm just going to describe it here. I'm also going to pronounce these names wrong, but it's like the Alethi countryside with these.
You got that.
Yeah. Yeah. The axe hinds graze for vine buds amidst a landscape of shale bark, scale spray, and frill blooms. That terminology, I've gone, wow, I love that, because that feels very sci-fi, very technobabble.
Yeah.
And instantly I'm like, that's really cool. And it reminds me, just this image, just again, very much a desert landscape with these. I mean, they look terrifying at a distance, so I don't want to be close to them. But it reminds me a little bit of Horizon Zero Dawn, that idea of like you're in these big wilderness places with these huge creatures that are very dangerous, but these beautiful, evocative like plants and because civilization and all that stuff. And from what I understand is that this planet is one big continent as well. So you're not necessarily traveling by sea, she says, but like, there's different vegetation and all that sort of thing. I just find, and the artwork is pretty great. And like I said, the rock buds, that's what it was, not rock shells. These
rock buds, yeah.
Hard-shelled plants found across Roshar, especially in the east. Like other Rosharan flora, rock buds can contract during high storms and bloom ashwards. So this idea of like a sea anemone pulling its stuff in and then coming out, so cool. Like that's the thing. I think literally the artwork has sold me on this. Whereas I think like if I hadn't read, I'm reading stuff now like about these like the Kremlins, which are like little
Kremlings, yeah.
Oh, they're so cute. And so they're like, well, that's a Disney like adventure about to happen. I think with them, I don't know, they might be really dangerous now, but like it's so interesting. Like there'll be like a little like, here's a tiny paragraph about it and also an image to go with it. So it feels like again, not to put it down a little bit, but almost like a children's activity book of like, look at this, the chasm fiend. Oh, that looks awful, but also very cool. And so I think what I want to commend is that the layout of this particular primer has made me gone, oh, this is really interesting. And I think purely because the artwork has done a good job, but then all the information is literally like a couple sentences here, a paragraph here. And yeah, I think I like that first sort of image I have of the countryside, this sort of desert place. I was like, that's not what I would necessarily picture for high fantasy. So that's why I find it really interesting. I think because I always assume, because of where I grew up and like the stuff I had been reading before, that high fantasy is there's a tower or there's a castle, and it's nice to see, certainly in these images, a reflection of different places that also appear in fantasy. Now, whether or not that is where the books are set, maybe they're obviously all the different planes and stuff like that. But I was like instantly like they're using these images up top to like welcome to Roshar. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, a lot of the story, not necessarily all of it, this does not spoil anything, is set in a region that is like pretty directly inspired by Utah. So like Grand Canyon, Zion National Park. So these really intense canyons and caverns, I guess. These canyons that if you in real life, if you are there and a light storm comes by, you can drown. Like you can very suddenly get just swept up by a river and slammed up against the rock side. So like this, or very dangerous place. And you're right, like so different from where we normally see high fantasy. And hearing you talk about this, I think lends credence to the thing I posited earlier, where like if there was somebody who bounced off the first book because they're like, I'm just not clicking with this, I do feel like this primer could really help somebody who's like, I need a little bit of something to ground me in this world. These like illustrations and descriptions of the ecology and the stuff that could be what you need.
Yeah. Also, and this is you and I are both on the same page about this, but I think it just highlights to me the importance of really good artwork in a time when a lot of people are turning to AI art, even though the TTRPG industry is like, fuck off, it's just so interesting now, like you see it all the time in adverts and stuff, like you're like, oh, this is like all this art, you're looking at it and you go, this is so good. And and like I said, some of them are obviously like almost like oil painting. Some of them are like more line drawing esque, but the color and it like I said, like the phrase "a child's activity book" really comes forward, and I don't mean that as a dismissive thing. I actually find it really easy to read, but also like really colorful and exciting. Like you were talking about the obviously the whole big thing of these big storms. There's a picture of Eastern Roshar where it's got like a capital, and you could just see this big storm in the background. And you're like, "Whoa, that looks incredibly dangerous!" And it could be like the little people like running inside away and stuff as they're going to have this huge passing high storm come. I'm going to send it to you afterwards because I think you'd appreciate looking at it. So. But yes, as you rightly clocked it, we have absolutely run out of time to talk more about the Cosmere RPG. Thank you so much, Ty, for coming on and indulging my sort of noobish, like going like, what is this? What is this high fantasy book? Everyone seems to be really in on it. I feel like once I finish Mistborn, maybe I'll have you back and we could do like a Mistborn read along series or something like that.
Oh, I would love to do that. It's been so long since I've read Mistborn, so like hearing about it from fresh eyes might inspire me to
go back into
re-listen to it. Yeah, I've typically listened to the audiobooks of this. Michael Kramer and Kate Redding do most of the narration for these. They're amazing narrators. So props to you too.
Ty, thank you so much. Where can we find you on the internet if you wish to be found? And yeah, Joyce, feel free to plug anything you've got coming up, my friend.
Yes, you can find me at sidecharacterquest.com or just look up Side Character Quest on your podcast apps. If you find episode 111, that is Fiona creates a character, where you came on and started your quest. Or you can skip straight to episode, the real episode 1 of that quest, episode 112.
Yeah.
Syrah is a sommelier.
Yeah.
I also, I mentioned my pal Josh earlier. He came on for episode 101, which I think is a particularly good introduction to the series. So if you are brand new to listening to Thai things, that could be a good one for you. Oh, and sorry, not to plug a million things,
but
also while I'm mentioning my friend Josh, he is part of an actual play of this game.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's just called. It's on the iCast Fireball's YouTube channel, and I think it's just called iCast Fireball Presents Stonewalkers, something like that.
Okay, great.
And that was the one I was listening to in preparation for this, and they seem to be really enjoying it. It's like 5 people who are deep into Stormlight, and then 1 person who knows nothing. So it's interesting contrast.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely put a link in the show notes so that people can see it. Because I always think it's useful if you're like me, not knowing anything about these things, to see some people playing through it, or do what I do and listen to the audiobook of the wrong series and then read through the primer. But yeah, we'll put that in as well.
It was interesting hearing, listening to that thing where they were doing the sort of choose your own adventure character creation for the person who didn't know things about
that's really good, actually. Yeah.
And then the other people were sort of following along with their characters that they had already decided, like you had said, they were like, I know where I want this character to lead, so let's build towards that. And as they were listening to the other person make their choices, like 2 or 3 of them were like, man, I wish we had not made our characters before. Like, I want to be doing this choose your own adventure thing.
Oh, how interesting.
And figure it out as I go.
I love that. That's really wholesome, actually. Like like you said, like these people who are very much versed in the Sanderson lore, and it's one person that's just like, I'm just going to try, and they're almost enjoying the discovery of it as well, rather than like, it's spoiling stuff. That's really cool. Oh, nice. Well, yeah, I'll put a link to it in the show notes so people can go and check that out. And also I'll put a link to Ty's work as well. Yeah, like I said, obviously I'm great on it. Classic. I have to say how amazing I am. But you should go check out all the episodes of Side Character Quest, mostly because they've got really good titles, which really just sums up exactly what happens in the episode. But yeah, and like as Ty said, like, was it 101, the start of season 2? Was that what you were saying? Or
more or less, yeah. We don't really have strong like season breaks, but 101 was sort of designed from the ground up as like an introductory thing to sort of introduce people to like concepts and characters without it feeling like they were being introduced to them.
Great.
Right. So it just feels like you're going on a fun, cool adventure. And then at the end of it, you're like, I want to know more about this thing or this thing.
And then you go,
you can do that.
Open up the podcast story. Well, there's so many series and episodes. So go check it out. So yeah, no, absolutely. Go check out all of Side Character Quest as well. So thank you so much, Ty. And thank you everyone for listening. Very much appreciated. We'll be back next week with another episode of the DM's Book Club. But until then, my friends, stay safe and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.
Bye-bye.